What's up guys? Welcome back to another video. We're here in Josh's garage working on the Red Z, and today I want to cover the top 5 mods you absolutely must do on your drift car. So let's get into it. Okay, so 5 things every drift car needs. Number 1 isn't even a mod, but it is the most important, and that is making sure your car runs good, is reliable, actually works. Sounds dumb, and you're probably thinking, well, of course, yeah, I know that. But I cannot tell you how many people show up to drift events and spend half the day wrenching on their car because they didn't go out and test it. They didn't do the obvious stuff like gaskets and spark plugs and all the basic stuff that everybody seems to overlook. So that's exactly what we're doing here, making sure this thing runs good so when we do finally get to the track, we don't have to spend all day wrenching on it. We're gonna get straight to work. I'm gonna throw you guys on a time lapse. We've got some radiator fans to hook up, spark plugs to change. I think we're gonna do a plenum spacer while we're under that intake manifold, and a couple of other little maintenance items. I'm gonna get to work now.
I really can't stress enough how important this is. Yes, it's not a mod. Yes, it's not anything flashy or cool. But if your car is reliable, you will go out and do the most laps possible, which will make you a better driver overall. So do your testing, do your maintenance, and make sure your car is reliable and sorted before your first drift event.
So just pulled the intake off, and this vacuum line that's on the bottom of the intake, it gets necked down to a random line, and then it goes to this one back here that is just completely split in half. So that's definitely not helping us with the idling issue this car is having. That could be a huge part of the problem. All right, we got our upper plenum off. We're gonna throw a plenum spacer on, and we're gonna replace the spark plugs. Just kind of do a once over on all the wiring down here, make sure all the connectors for the coil packs look good, and we'll go from there. So we decided while we're in here, might as well replace the valve cover gaskets as they're leaking a little bit into like where the spark plugs sit and stuff. It's pretty common when the valve cover gaskets fail. So we're gonna go ahead and replace those. But after we pulled the lower part of the intake manifold off, we discovered this is part of the fuel rail here, right? These are the injectors. It's missing a bolt. You can see right down there. No bolt. Look at how loose this is. That should not be happening. So I don't know how this thing even started up and ran. Crazy. I think between all the little stuff we're fixing, this thing is gonna run so much better. On top of that, take a look at these spark plugs that we pulled out. I couldn't tell you when they were replaced, but definitely a long time ago. Check out the gap on that. All right, things are going back together. We got our valve cover gaskets replaced, new plugs in there. Got our plenum spacer on here. Just got to get the rest of the intake manifold on and getting this thing buttoned up. And as you can see, we've pretty much got it all buttoned up. Even got a fresh new intake on it. Well, the work on the engine side of things is done. Sure sounds good. Let it run for a little bit and see if it still dies like it was before or if we fixed it. And number 2, or at least next on the list, is some half decent front tires. These are brand new, but nothing special. So you don't need super fancy front tires. It is nice to have a bit of grip in the front of the car, but if you're just getting started, or if your car has really cheap tires in the back, you don't need super nice tires in the front. You want a relatively consistent grip level front and rear. So we've got Acelera's 400 treadwear tires up front and some really old, potentially dry rotted tires in the rear, and it's gonna be just fine. We also threw some spacers up front. That's not a requirement, but it's definitely my preference when it comes to drift cars. I like the front track width to be a bit wider. I think it feels better, but that's kind of a preference thing. So we're gonna get these front wheels bolted on, get this car back on the ground, and I think we're gonna try to take it for a little drive and see if we fix that idling issue. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Make sure your car is good before you actually go to the track. That's definitely an issue we're gonna have to address. Well, we're driving. The belt squeaks, but everything seems to be working. Feels like a normal car as far as I can tell. We haven't come to a stop yet, so I don't know if we fixed the idling issue, but we're about to find out. Here comes a stop sign, and it didn't stall. We're actually coming up to operating temperature here, so I think we're passing the first test. Just kidding, it just stalled. Well, that's not something you want to see after a short little test drive. Okay, so one quick inspection. Pull the radiator cap off. The radiator's not even hot. That's because there's no coolant in there. Easy fix on the overheating problem. Just wanted to point this out real quick. I know earlier I talked about the importance of having some half-decent front tires. Like I said, you don't need anything fancy, but you definitely want something that's on the newer side that you know is gonna last. And the same story goes for the rear. Even if you're buying used tires or getting a good deal or getting free tires or whatever the case may be, there's no point showing up to a track event with tires like this. That's what this car came on. I can't believe it was all the way down to the cords. I hadn't even lifted the back of this thing up to look at it. So probably just gonna order some brand new tires for the rear. Like I said, you can get the cheapest thing you can find. I know I always used to run 500 treadwear tires that I found on eBay. And for an 18-inch wheel, they were like 80 bucks a piece. So not the cheapest thing in the world, but having brand new tires, even if they are the cheapest, they'll definitely last you a whole lot longer than some used tires. So in my opinion, it's worth it to spend just a little bit more. At the end of the day, as long as you have a good amount of tread and they're not super dry rotted, they'll probably last you though. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so moving on down the list. Number one is reliability. At least that's what I'm gonna call it. That's all your maintenance stuff that we talked about. I'm gonna add bolt check to that because I've preached about it a million times over. Definitely bolt check your cars before a track event. And I'm gonna throw alignment in there too. And you don't need to go to a shop and spend $60, $80, $100 to get a super fancy alignment. You can do toe plates, you can do string, you can even eyeball it. Just do something so you're not going out on track for your first time ever with an absolutely trash alignment. You will burn through your tires so fast, and there's no fun in that. We've got our reliability, number one, right? The rest of these aren't in any particular order, so I'm just gonna work my way down the list. But we had number two was tires. Fronts are the most important, but like I said, don't show up with tires that have 10% life left on them in the rear because you're not gonna have any fun. You don't wanna spend all day getting your tires changed or this, that, or the other. Show up with some decent tires, whether you buy them used or buy them new, whatever the case may be, it's definitely important. Number three on the list is super important, and that is some kind of differential in your car. Now, whether the car came stock with an LSD, that's not my favorite, but hey, it will work. Or if you have an open diff like this red Z that Josh has. So we're gonna pull the diff out, get it cleaned up, and weld it. A welded diff is my personal favorite. It is not only the cheapest, but the most reliable. There's nothing that can go wrong unless it breaks and catastrophically fails, and that's honestly pretty rare. So I think I'm gonna do a separate video specifically on how to weld a diff. It's pretty straightforward, but I guess if you've never gotten into it before, it could be informative. So drop a comment down below if that's a video you wanna see, and I will show you guys the full process of how we got this thing welded up. But for now, I'm gonna yank the diff out so we can get that taken care of. So I'm under the car, getting ready to pull the diff out, and this is exactly why I encourage frequent bolt checks and just general inspections on something like a drift car. Now, not that this was a drift car in its past life. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, I really don't know. But I'm kind of in disbelief of what I just found under here, and it kind of is just a little bit concerning. Let me show you. We're here in the passenger side wheel well. That is the subframe. That is a very large crack in the subframe, and it looks like it goes all the way up over the top, and it's underneath as well. Here's a view from the bottom side. Obviously we have the diff, the axle. Just above the axle is a pretty gnarly crack there. We sure don't need that where we're going. All right, top three are done. Car's reliable, runs well, did a bolt check, and the alignment's okay. Step one, checked off the list. We've got some decent tires all the way around. We know they're gonna last through the event. Step two, checked off the list. And it's not done right now because the diff's on the ground over there, but we've got some kind of diff in the car. In this case, it's a welded. Maybe you have an LSD or something along those lines. Regardless, it's something that's going to work. Now, really, you're good. You could go to the track. But there are two more things that will make it a much better experience. So number 4 is going to be a bucket seat. As you saw in the introduction video of Josh's car, he actually already got a bucket seat and it's already in the car. Let me show you guys that. This NRG seat looks really cool. I like the carbon a lot. For brackets, he's got the same thing I have. Those are the Bell Raceworks. They have so many different options in terms of where you could actually put the seat. Looks and works really well. Now, why do I put a bucket list on my top 5 things you need for a drift car? Because it makes driving so much easier. If you've done any kind of spirited driving in a car with stock seats, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You get tossed around, you end up bracing against the door panel or the center console with your legs, holding on a lot tighter than you need to, and you get exhausted so much faster. Being in a bucket seat, held in place, you're not going anywhere. You can focus solely on driving, and you feel so much more in control and connected to the car. If it's your daily and you're thinking, man, I don't want to ride in some super uncomfortable fixed back bucket seat all the time, you can either swap them out. I know a few people that do that, or you can just get a more comfortable bucket seat. They make reclinable ones. They make some that have a bit more padding. There's so many different options out there. You can do your homework and see what fits you best. If you guys have been watching my videos for a while now, you know I have my absolute dream seat in my Z, a new Bride Zeta, and that is one of the lowest and more so aggressive bucket seats. And while I have put thousands of street miles on it, I wouldn't recommend it for a daily because it's really low. The padding is very minimal and it's not very comfortable, but boy, is it an absolute dream on the track. It holds me in so well. And I'm telling you, it makes a world of difference. And that's why it's on my list of top 5 things you've got to have. And if you're thinking, man, bucket seats are so expensive, they can be. They absolutely can be. If you want a super nice Bride or Recaro, you're talking over $1,000, and you still have to buy brackets and stuff like that. But you don't need that. I just picked up a passenger seat for the Z. It's just a no-name fiberglass fixed back bucket. It looks just like an NRG, just not the fancy carbon fiber one. I found it used for $150. The guy I bought it from never even used it. He opened the box, set it in his living room, and that was it. As far as brackets go, you can find some universal ones for pretty cheap. You can build your own for just the cost of material, or you can buy some similar to these Bell Raceworks one, and they're under $200. So for a couple $100, you can get yourself in a nice seat. And I'm telling you, if you haven't experienced it yet, it will change your driving for the better. And that's why it's on my list.
All right, number 5, last but definitely not least, in my opinion, one of the most important things to get right before you go to a track day, especially if it's your first, and that's your mindset. Now, don't click off this video thinking this guy's full of it. How can he call that a mod or a must-do? But let me tell you, it is so important. Showing up to a track event with the right mindset can make or break your day, really, and especially if it's your first one. Now, what do I mean by mindset? The first thing that comes to mind really is just not being afraid to ask questions, especially if it's your first track day. Go around, talk to people, ask questions about the track, ask questions about their cars. For the most part, drifters are pretty nice people, and everybody kind of wants to help everybody, because at the end of the day, we all just want to have fun driving with our homies. And if you don't have any homies at the track event, I guarantee you'll make some if you go around and talk to people. So don't be afraid to ask questions. That is super important. And just go with the mindset of, I want to have fun. And you'll probably have a whole lot of fun. As I get more and more into drifting, I'll oftentimes notice that I'm taking things a little bit too seriously, right? I'm really trying to progress in one certain area, or I'm trying to get better at this one specific thing. And a lot of times if I focus really hard on just a progression or just trying to get better at something, I kind of lose sight of the bigger picture, which is I'm there to have fun. And maybe that'll change down the road when I get into competition and take driving a little bit more seriously. But even with that, I still want to have fun. And like I said, that's why mindset is so important, because you're going to have a whole lot more fun if you're in the right mindset, and you're going to learn a lot more and progress a lot faster if you're not afraid to ask questions and you're willing to go talk to people and make friends. That's how I've gotten as far as I have in this world, right? This is the only reason I went on Drift Week, is because I talked to people, asked questions. Hey, how do I do this? How do I get there? So not only will it enhance your driving, but it'll just enhance everything related to it. Anyways, I feel like I'm kind of rambling at this point because it's kind of a vague topic, but I hope you get the gist of what I'm trying to say.
So if you're going to your first track event, just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask questions, to walk over to people, to talk to them, ask them about their car setup. Maybe see if you can go for a ride with them and see how they drive. Maybe let somebody drive your car and say, hey, what do you think of my setup? Is there anything you'd change? Go find the best guy at your next track event and go talk to him. And I guarantee you, you'll improve in one way or another, or at least learn something. Anyways, I'm gonna close this video out here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned something from it. And if you're ever at your first track day and you see me there, come over and talk to me, because I would love to help you or share some insight, because at the end of the day, we all just wanna have fun. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think of my top 5. Is there anything you'd change? Did I miss anything? Are some of these unnecessary? Let me know. I'm curious. One last thing before I go, don't forget, I am hosting my own event at Apple Valley Speedway, June 3rd. Put the link down below if you'd like to sign up as a driver. Otherwise, spectators are always welcome. We're gonna have a bunch of really cool vendors out there. Somebody's gonna be raffling off a trailer. We're gonna have super good food. We'll be giving ride-alongs all day, and it's gonna be a whole lot of fun. So I hope to see you guys there. As always, thank you for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one.